Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you today that when God removes people from your life, it's not a mistake, it's a setup. Sometimes we try to hold on to relationships, friendships, or connections that have already served their purpose. But God, in His wisdom, knows what's best for us. He sees the road ahead, the opportunities, the blessings, and yes, even the dangers we cannot see. If someone walked away, if a door closed, if a relationship ended, don't fight it. Trust that God is making room for something greater. He is clearing the path for new beginnings, new opportunities, and divine connections that will take you higher. So don't look back in regret. Look ahead in faith. Because when God removes people from your life, it's not rejection, it's redirection. When God removes people from your life, it can be difficult to understand in the moment. You may feel hurt, confused, or even abandoned. But what you must realize is that God never takes something away without a purpose. He is not a God of accidents or coincidences. He is intentional in everything He does. When He allows someone to walk away, it is often His way of protecting you from something you cannot see. Maybe that person was holding you back, draining your energy, or keeping you from stepping into the fullness of your destiny. We don't always recognize the dangers that lie ahead. We may be attached to certain relationships because they feel familiar or comfortable, but comfort is not always a sign of God's will. Sometimes the very thing we are clinging to is the thing that is preventing us from stepping into something greater. God, in His infinite wisdom, will intervene and begin to separate us from the people who are not meant to go where He is taking us. It may not make sense at the time, but His ways are higher than our ways. Think about the story of Abraham and Lot. God called Abraham to a land of promise, but along the way He brought his nephew Lot. Over time, tension arose between them, and their herdsmen began to quarrel. Eventually, Abraham and Lot had to separate. It wasn't a coincidence, it was a divine setup. God knew that Lot could not go where Abraham was going. The moment Lot left, God gave Abraham a fresh vision and new direction. That separation was necessary for Abraham to step into his destiny. Sometimes we hold on to people because of history. We think that just because they've been in our lives for years, they are meant to stay. But longevity does not always equal destiny. Just because someone has been with you for a long time does not mean they are part of your future. God knows when a relationship has run its course. He knows when a friendship is no longer serving His purpose in your life. And when that time comes, He will begin to create situations that push you apart. It may come through a disagreement, a change in circumstances, or even an unexpected shift in the relationship dynamic. Whatever it is, you have to trust that God is orchestrating it for your good. One of the hardest things to accept is that some people were never meant to stay. They were assigned to a season, not a lifetime. They came into your life to teach you something, to help you grow, or to fulfill a certain purpose. And once that purpose is fulfilled, God allows them to move on. If you try to hold on to them beyond their season, it can actually hinder your growth. You may start feeling stuck, frustrated, or even drained. That's because you are trying to force something that God is trying to release. When God removes people from your life, it is often because He is protecting you from something you cannot see. Maybe that person was not truly for you. Maybe they were secretly envious, speaking against you behind your back, or carrying a spirit of negativity that would have affected your journey. God hears the conversations you don't hear. He sees the intentions of the heart. And because He loves you, He will not allow the wrong people to stay attached to you. We have to trust that God is a good Father. If He is removing someone, it is not to punish you, but to position you. He has a plan that is far beyond what you can see right now. He knows the friendships that will bless you, the relationships that will encourage you, and the connections that will propel you forward. But as long as you are holding on to what is no longer meant for you, you won't be able to receive what is ahead. Many times we try to hold on because we are afraid of being alone. We think that if we let go, we will be left with nothing. But God never removes something without having something greater in store. The problem is that we often cannot see what's ahead because we are so focused on what's behind. We allow fear to keep us in situations that are no longer serving us. But faith requires trust. It requires believing that even when we don't understand, God knows what He is doing. There are times when we may never fully understand why God removed a certain person. Maybe we thought they were supposed to be with us forever. Maybe we believed they were a key part of our destiny. But looking back, we can often see that what we thought was a loss was actually a blessing. God was protecting us from heartbreak, disappointment, or even destruction. He was making room for something far better. When someone walks away, don't see it as a rejection, see it as a sign that God is watching over you. He is guiding your steps and making sure that only the right people stay in your life. Instead of resisting His plan, embrace it. Trust that His protection is always for your good. When God allows people to leave your life, it can feel like rejection. You may wonder why they walked away, why the relationship changed, or why you are suddenly standing alone. But what if that rejection was actually God's way of redirecting you to something better? What if He is closing a door not to harm you, but to guide you toward the purpose He has for you? Too often we see the departure of people as a loss, when in reality it is a divine shift. God never allows something to be taken away unless He has something greater in store. But in the moment, it's hard to see beyond the pain. We get caught up in the questions trying to figure out what went wrong. We replay conversations in our minds, wondering if we could have done something differently. Yet what we fail to realize is that sometimes, no matter what we do, certain people are not meant to stay in our lives. When God is taking you to a new level, He often has to separate you from relationships that no longer align with where He is leading you. Think about Joseph in the Bible. He was rejected by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and falsely accused. It looked like everything was working against him. But what seemed like rejection was actually redirection. If his brothers had not betrayed him, he would have never ended up in Egypt. If he had not gone through the challenges, he would have never risen to become second in command over the entire nation. What looked like a terrible situation was actually positioning him for his destiny. Sometimes the very people who reject you are unknowingly pushing you into the plan God has for your life. We often try to hold on to people who are no longer meant to be part of our journey. We chase after relationships that God has already removed. We try to rekindle friendships that He has allowed to fade. But every time we do this, we are resisting His divine direction. We may not realize it, but we are actually delaying the blessings that He wants to bring into our lives. When one door closes, it is because another door is waiting to be opened. But if we keep knocking on the closed door, we may miss what is ahead. Some people are not meant to go where God is taking you. They may have been right for a past season, but they are not right for your future. Maybe their mindset does not align with where God is leading you. Maybe their influence would hinder your growth. Maybe their presence in your life would bring unnecessary distractions. Whatever the reason, God knows what He is doing. He sees the conversations behind closed doors, the thoughts in people's hearts, and the motives that are hidden. And because He loves you, He will not allow the wrong people to stay attached to you. The problem is we often take rejection personally. We assume that if someone walks away, it means we were not good enough. We allow their departure to make us question our worth. But their leaving is not a reflection of your value. It is a sign that God is shifting you into something new. When a relationship ends, when a door closes, when people distance themselves from you, don't see it as a failure. See it as a sign that God is working behind the scenes. He is removing what no longer serves His purpose in your life so that He can bring in what will. Sometimes God will allow you to feel discomfort in a relationship so that you will be willing to walk away. He will let things happen that force you to move forward. You may start feeling unappreciated, unseen, or misunderstood. You may experience betrayal, disappointment, or a shift in connection. But instead of seeing it as a negative thing, recognize that it could be God's way of getting your attention. He knows that if everything remained easy and comfortable, you might never leave a situation that is no longer meant for you. God's redirection is always for your good, even when it doesn't feel that way. When people leave, He is making space. When a relationship ends, He is protecting you. When a door closes, He is setting you up for something better. The pain of rejection is temporary, but the blessings that come from trusting His plan will last forever. Instead of resisting His direction, embrace it. Instead of looking back at what you lost, start looking ahead at what He is bringing into your life. When you stop chasing what God has removed, you will make room for the incredible things He has prepared for you. There are people who come into your life for a reason, but not everyone is meant not. Some people are seasonal. They are there for a specific time, a specific purpose. And once that purpose is fulfilled, they will leave. The challenge is that we often try to hold on to seasonal people as if they are meant to be permanent. We build our lives around them, invest our emotions in them, and expect them to walk with us forever. But when God is ready to take you into a new season, He will often remove people who are no longer meant to go with you. It can be difficult to accept when someone who was once so close suddenly begins to distance themselves. You may wonder what went wrong, question what you did, or feel like you've lost something valuable. But what you have to understand is that just because someone was good for one season does not mean they are meant to be with you in the next. God sends people into your life for different reasons. Some are there to help you grow. Some are there to teach you lessons, and some are there to support you in a particular stage of your journey. But just as seasons change, relationships shift. Think about the people who were in your life 5 or 10 years ago. Some of them may still be with you, but others have moved on. At the time, you may have thought they would be part of your life forever. But now you realize they were there for a season. Maybe they encouraged you through a difficult time. Maybe they helped you see something about yourself that you needed to change. Maybe they introduced you to new opportunities, gave you wisdom, or even challenged you in ways that helped you grow. Their role in your life was important, but it was never meant to be permanent. One of the mistakes we make is trying to force seasonal people into permanent places in our lives. We hold on to friendships that have expired, trying to revive something that no longer fits. We continue to entertain relationships that drain us, thinking that if we just put in more effort, things will go back to the way they were. But when a season is over, no amount of effort can make it last. You will feel the disconnect, sense the shift, and deep down, you will know that something is not the same. God will begin to remove people in ways that may not always make sense. Sometimes they will walk away on their own. Sometimes the relationship will become strained, and no matter how much you try to fix it, things will never be the same. Other times, God will allow circumstances to separate you, even when you don't understand why. But what you have to trust is that when He removes someone, it is always for a reason. He knows what's ahead, and He knows who is necessary for your next season. Holding on to the wrong people can hinder your growth. Some relationships will keep you stuck in an old version of yourself when God is trying to elevate you. Some connections will prevent you from seeing what God has placed ahead because you are too focused on keeping what He is trying to remove. When you try to keep someone beyond their season, it can lead to unnecessary frustration, disappointment, and even heartbreak. That is why it is so important to recognize when a season is ending and be willing to let go. There are also people who come into your life simply to teach you something. They may not have stayed long, but their impact was significant. Maybe they challenged your thinking, exposed you to new ideas, or even hurt you in a way that made you stronger. Some of the greatest lessons in life come from people who were only meant to be in your life temporarily. The key is to take the lessons with you, but not get stuck in the pain of their departure. Letting go of seasonal people does not mean you stop caring about them. It does not mean you hold bitterness or resentment. It simply means you acknowledge that their role in your life has been fulfilled. You appreciate what they brought into your life, but you also recognize that your journey is continuing. Just as you wouldn't try to hold on to summer in the middle of winter, you cannot force relationships to remain when their time has passed. God's plan for your life is always unfolding. He brings people in at the right time, and He removes them at the right time. Instead of mourning what is lost, you have to trust that He is making space for what is to come. When you understand that some people are seasonal, you will no longer be afraid to release them. You will have peace knowing that their departure is not the end of your story. It is simply the closing of one chapter so that a new one can begin. Letting go is one of the hardest things to do, especially when it comes to relationships, friendships, and connections that once meant so much. There is a natural tendency to hold on, to try to fix what is breaking, to keep what is slipping away. But sometimes God closes doors not to hurt you, but to prepare you for something greater. Holding on to the past can keep you from stepping into the future He has planned for you. When you refuse to let go of what no longer serves you, you are blocking the blessings, opportunities, and people that God wants to bring into your life. Many times we cling to relationships because they are familiar. Even if they are unhealthy or no longer fulfilling, the idea of change feels too overwhelming. You may know deep down that a friendship has run its course, that a relationship is no longer aligned with where you are going. or that a certain environment is stifling your growth, yet you resist walking away. The fear of the unknown keeps you in places you have outgrown. But what you have to understand is that when you release what is no longer meant for you, you create space for new beginnings. God will often give you signs when it is time to let go. You may start to feel uneasy in a relationship that once felt comfortable. The conversations that used to flow naturally may now feel forced. You may find yourself drained instead of uplifted after spending time with certain people. There may be conflicts that arise, not because the other person is bad, but because you are no longer meant to walk together in this season. Ignoring these signs only prolongs the inevitable. The longer you try to hold on, the more difficult the separation will become. Think about the story of the Israelites in the Bible. When God brought them out of Egypt, He was leading them to the promised land, a place of abundance and blessings. But many of them struggled to let go of the past. Even though they had been in slavery, there was a part of them that wanted to return to what was familiar. Their unwillingness to fully trust God caused them to wander in the wilderness for years. That is what happens when you refuse to let go. You stay stuck in a place that was never meant to be permanent. There are times when God will force a door to close in order to move you forward. You may have been hesitating, going back and forth, unsure of what to do. But when God has decided that a certain relationship, friendship, or situation is no longer beneficial to your destiny, He will allow circumstances to arise that make it impossible for you to stay. A person you relied on may suddenly walk away. A door you were trying to keep open may shut unexpectedly. It may feel painful at first, but in hindsight, you will see that it was necessary. Letting go requires faith. It means trusting that God's plan is better than your own. It means believing that what He has ahead of you is greater than what you are leaving behind. Many times people resist letting go because they feel like they are losing something valuable. But God never takes something away without having something greater in store. What seems like a loss is often a setup for something bigger. If you are too focused on what is ending, you may miss the new opportunities that God is trying to bring into your life. One of the biggest struggles people face when letting go is the emotional attachment. You may have memories with this person, shared experiences, and a deep bond that makes it difficult to walk away. But just because something was good in one season does not mean it is meant to last forever. Holding on out of nostalgia or guilt will only keep you from growing. Growth requires release. If you want to step into a new level in life, you have to be willing to let go of what no longer aligns with where you are going. Some people are afraid that if they let go, they will end up alone. But isolation is often a part of the process. When God removes certain people from your life, He is making room for the right people to come in. So, if you try to keep people who are no longer meant to be there, you may end up missing the divine connections that God wants to bring into your life. Sometimes, the wrong people have to leave before the right ones can arrive. It is important to recognize that letting go does not mean you are rejecting or abandoning anyone. It simply means that you are being obedient to God's direction. You can still love people from a distance, wish them well, and pray for them without keeping them in your life. Some relationships are meant to be released so that both individuals can grow in different ways. If you hold on too tightly, you may end up delaying not only your own progress, but theirs as well. God's plans are always greater than anything you could imagine. He knows what relationships will bring you peace, what opportunities will bring you joy, and what environments will help you grow. The key is to trust Him enough to release what He is asking you to let go of. When you stop resisting His plan, you will find that He has something so much greater waiting for you. Instead of clinging to what is ending, start preparing your heart for what is about to begin. Separation is never easy, especially when it involves people you care about. When someone walks away or when God removes them from your life, it's natural to feel hurt, confused, or even abandoned. You may wonder why things had to change, why a friendship that once felt so strong suddenly faded, or why a relationship that seemed meant to last came to an end. But what you must understand is that divine separation is part of God's plan. He knows what is best for your future, and sometimes it requires Him to move people out of your life to make room for something better. There are people who were assigned to your past, but not to your future. They may have been instrumental in helping you through a particular season. They may have been your support system, your encouragers, your closest companions. But just because someone was meant to be in your life for a time does not mean they are meant to stay forever. God sees the bigger picture. He knows who will help you grow, who will hold you back, and who will hinder you from becoming who He has called you to be. Sometimes God removes people to protect you. You may not see it now, but He knows what is happening behind closed doors. He knows the intentions of every heart. There are people who may seem like they have your best interests at heart, but deep down they are not truly for you. There are relationships that may feel good now, but would lead you down the wrong path in the long run. God in His wisdom will allow those people to leave because He is shielding you from future pain. Other times, God removes people because they are a distraction. You may have dreams, goals, and a calling on your life, but certain people will keep you from stepping into your full potential. They may not be bad people, but their presence in your life may be preventing you from focusing on what truly matters. Some relationships drain your energy, take your focus off God, and keep you in a cycle of emotional ups and downs. When God is leading you to something greater, He will eliminate the distractions, even if it means removing people you never expected to lose. There are also seasons when God will separate you from people so that He can work on you individually. There are lessons you need to learn, growth that needs to take place, and healing that must happen before you step into the next phase of your journey. If you are always surrounded by people, it can be difficult to hear God's voice clearly. That is why sometimes He will allow you to experience solitude. He will take you through a season where you have to rely on Him completely, where you are no longer depending on the voices and opinions of others, but instead you are being shaped and strengthened by Him alone. When God removes people from your life, it is never a mistake. He does not make errors in His divine plan. Every departure is intentional. Every shift is orchestrated for your good. The problem is we often hold on too tightly to what God is trying to take away. We try to force relationships to work when they have already run their course. We chase after people who have already shown us that they are not meant to stay. But when God removes someone, it is not your job to bring them back. It is your job to trust that He knows what He is doing. One of the hardest things to accept is when God removes someone without giving you an explanation. You may never get closure. You may never fully understand why things change. But faith means trusting God even when you don't have all the answers. Faith means believing that His plans are higher than yours, even when it feels like you are losing something important. If you spend all your time looking for explanations, you may miss the blessing of what He is doing in your life. There are times when you will have to walk away from people yourself. God may not always remove them directly. Sometimes He gives you the wisdom and discernment to recognize when a relationship is no longer serving His purpose for you. You may feel the prompting in your spirit. You may notice that you no longer align with certain people. You may see that their presence in your life is causing more harm than good. When God gives you these signs, it is your responsibility to act on them. Ignoring the signs will only lead to unnecessary pain and delay your progress. It is important to remember that when God removes people, it is not always about them, it is about you. It is about your growth, your destiny, and your alignment with His will. Some people are meant to be part of your foundation, but they are not meant to be part of your building. If you try to bring everyone with you into the next season, you may find yourself weighed down by relationships that no longer fit where God is taking you. God's plan is always for your good, even when it involves separation. Instead of resisting His process, embrace it. Instead of mourning what is lost, prepare for what is to come. Every removal is a setup for something greater. When you trust His timing and His decisions, you will find that what He has ahead of you is far greater than anything you had to leave behind. Growth requires change, and change often requires separation. When God is preparing to take you to a new level, He will sometimes remove people from your life because they can no longer go where He is leading you. It is not always because they are bad people or because something went wrong, but simply because their assignment in your life has been completed. Holding on to relationships, friendships, or associations that no longer align with your purpose will only hinder you from stepping into the next season that God has ordained for you. Many people struggle with letting go because they have become attached to the familiar. They feel a sense of loyalty to relationships that have run their course. They fear being alone or wonder if they will ever find people who truly understand them. But when God begins to shift your life, He is not asking you to figure everything out. He is asking you to trust Him. He is asking you to believe that if He removes someone, He will bring the right people at the right time. The friendships, connections, and opportunities He has for you in the future are far greater than anything you are leaving behind. There are times when the people in your life are tied to an old version of you. They knew you when you were struggling, when you were uncertain, when you were still figuring things out. But as you grow, as you become stronger in faith, as you develop a new mindset, not everyone will be able to handle the change. Some people were comfortable with you when you were insecure, when you were dependent on them, or when you were at a certain level. But as you elevate, they may begin to pull away, criticize, or even try to hold you back. That is a sign that God is shifting you into a new environment. It is important to recognize that not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some people come into your life for a season, and once that season is over, the relationship naturally fades. When you try to force something that God is trying to remove, it only leads to frustration. You may feel like you are constantly chasing after someone, constantly trying to prove your worth, or constantly trying to make things work when they no longer fit. That is a sign that it is time to release them and trust that God has something better ahead. God knows the weight that relationships can carry. He knows that certain people in your life are either adding to you or draining you. Some people will uplift you, encourage you, and push you closer to your purpose. Others will pull you away from it, keep you stuck in old habits, or fill your mind with doubt and negativity. When God is preparing you for something greater, He will start revealing the people who are no longer meant to walk with you. He will expose those who are not truly for you, those who bring more harm than good, and those who are blocking the blessings He wants to you. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that they can take everyone with them to the next level. But every elevation requires separation. If you are climbing a mountain, the higher you go, the thinner the air becomes. Not everyone is built to go where you are going. Some people do not have the capacity to handle the level God is taking you to. If you try to carry them with you, they will only weigh you down. That is why God will allow certain people to walk away so that you can move forward without unnecessary burdens. Separation is not always a loss. Sometimes it is a blessing in disguise. There are relationships that you thought you needed, friendships that you thought would last forever, people that you thought would always be there. But God sees what you cannot see. He knows what is ahead, and He knows who is necessary for your journey. If He allows someone to leave, it is because their part in your story has ended. You do not have to beg people to stay, convince them of your value, or chase after what God is removing. What is meant for you will always align with where God is taking you. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life come after a season of separation. When you stop holding on to what is no longer serving you, you make room for new blessings. When you release relationships that have expired, you position yourself for divine connections. There are people God has assigned to your future, but you will never meet them if you are still clinging to the past. There are opportunities waiting for you, but you cannot access them if you are stuck trying to revive something that is no longer meant to exist. It can be painful to let go, but the pain of holding on to the wrong people is even greater. When you hold on to people who are no longer meant to be in your life, you are delaying your progress. You are allowing their presence to take up space that was meant for something greater. You are settling for what is familiar instead of stepping into what is possible. God's plan is always for your good, and His timing is always perfect. When He removes someone, it is not to harm you, it is to prepare you for something far better than you could have imagined.